Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today into a really powerful chapter from the Bible, Jeremiah chapter 8. It's intense stuff, full of sharp words, vivid imagery, honestly, some pretty disturbing pictures.
It really is. Jeremiah 8, it lays bare this profound disconnect, a people completely out of touch with reality,
Yeah.
especially their relationship with God and the consequences of their actions. It gives a very stark picture of judgment, but there's also this deep, deep lament running through it.
Yeah, and as we go through this, you listening, you might hear echoes. Echoes of these kinds of dynamics maybe in different situations today. People clinging to things that just aren't true, facing outcomes they never saw coming, or just feeling this total lack of real peace.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of walk through the key parts, the big pronouncements and the sorrow in this chapter. Understand what Jeremiah was really pointing at, and see what insights we can maybe pull from this ancient text for ourselves.
Okay, so it gets really interesting. Like right away, the chapter opens with this really shocking scene. It talks about bones, the bones of the leaders, kings, officials, priests, prophets, and the bones of just the regular people of Jerusalem being dug up, pulled out of their
Right,
graves.
removed from their race
Yeah.
and exposed. The text is very specific why this happens. Because they loved and served and followed, even consulted and worshipped the sun, the moon, the stars, all the celestial bodies. It's this physical symbol of their
Yeah.
spiritual betrayal,
Hmm.
and the utter lack of respect for those who turn from the Lord. Their bones are just left out like garbage.
Wow. So the things they worshipped end up sort of watching over their desecration. That's
Yeah.
powerful. And the consequences are laid out as so incredibly severe. It says the survivors of this evil nation will actually prefer death over life. That's how bad it gets.
It really paints a picture of complete hopelessness, doesn't it? Total devastation. The state of things will be so awful, so dire, that not living seems like the better option. It just underscores how absolute the judgment is.
Then the text kind of pivots. It starts posing these questions that sound incredibly logical, almost like common sense, you could say. It asks, when men fall down, do they not get up? When a man turns away, does he not return? Basic stuff.
And what's fascinating there is the contrast it's drawing. The normal human reaction to falling is, well, you get up. The expected thing after turning away, maybe realizing you went wrong, is to turn back. But Jeremiah then asks, why then have these people turned away? Why does Jerusalem always turn away?
So they're acting against that natural instinct, the instinct to correct course.
Exactly. The text says they cling to deceit, they flat out refuse to return. It's like a stubborn, willful persistence in going the wrong way, which feels unnatural.
And it feels like the text highlights that unnaturalness by comparing them to animals, right? It says, even the stork in the sky knows her appointed seasons, and the dove, the swift, and the thrush observe the time of their migration, but my people do not know the requirements of the Lord.
Yeah, that comparison is really something. You've got birds operating on instinct, following these complex natural cycles perfectly. They know their seasons. Yet the people, who supposedly have God's law, divine teaching, they fail to grasp or obey the most fundamental requirements of their relationship with God. It's a stark contrast.
They have the instructions, basically, and the birds just have instinct, and the birds are doing better.
That seems to be exactly the point Jeremiah is making. Nature follows its created order. Humanity, given this gift of consciousness and choice, is actively ignoring the very principles meant for its good. And there's another animal image right after, saying they pursue their own course, heedlessly, like a horse charging into battle, just rushing forward without thinking.
That leads right into this critique of false wisdom, which feels particularly pointed. Jeremiah asks, how can you say, we are wise, for we have the law of the Lord, when actually the lying pen of the scribes has handled it falsely? Oof.
Yes, this is crucial. It points the finger at corruption right at the source, the religious and intellectual leaders. The scribes, the ones recording and interpreting the law, they're accused of deceit. Their handling of the sacred text isn't true to what it actually means or intends. They've twisted it.
So their claim to wisdom, because they possess the law, it's completely hollowed out.
Precisely. The text follows up, rhetorically. Since they have rejected the word of the Lord, what kind of wisdom do they have? It implies true wisdom comes from adhering to God's word, not just having the scrolls. Rejecting that source just makes their claims to wisdom meaningless. And this isn't just theoretical. There are real consequences mentioned. Wives given to others, fields to new owners.
And it's not just the scribes. It says this corruption is systemic. From the least to greatest, everyone's greedy, everyone's deceitful, priests and prophets included. It's across the board.
Right. It paints this picture of a society where truth has just been abandoned at every level, replaced by self-interest, by deception. The very people who should be the moral compass are part of the problem.
Which sets up that really chilling line about how the leaders dress the wound of my people as though it were not serious. Peace, peace, they say, when there is no peace.
That one really resonates, doesn't it? It speaks volumes about superficial solutions, offering false comfort, pretending everything's okay when the underlying reality is critical, a deep brokenness, disaster looming. They lack the courage, maybe, or the integrity to actually face the truth themselves or lead the people towards genuine healing.
They can't even blush, the text says. No shame for their loathsome conduct.
Exactly. That capacity for shame, which often prompts us to change, right?
Mm.
It's gone.
Yeah.
They're so used to their ways, they don't even see it as wrong anymore. And so the text says they're destined to fall when judgment arrives.
And the judgment described is, again, very tangible, affecting their survival. The Lord declares, I will take away their harvest. There will be no grapes on the vine. There will be no figs on the tree, and their leaves will wither. What I have given them will be taken from them.
It's a direct reversal of blessing, isn't it? The very land that sustained them turns against them, their source of life, their prosperity. Gone. It links back so clearly to the earlier point about nature versus their disobedience. Their spiritual failure has real-world consequences.
Okay, so after these judgments are laid out, the voice shifts. It sounds like the people themselves finally waking up to the horror, crying out, why are we sitting here? Gather together, let us flee to the fortified cities and perish there. For the Lord our God has doomed us to perish and given us poisoned water to drink because we have sinned against him.
Yes, that's the moment of realization. That horrifying clarity, the false peace the leaders offered is shattered. They finally see how bad it is, and crucially, they link it to their own actions because we have sinned. The hope they had for peace, it just resulted in terror. And notice, they're running to the cities expecting to perish there. There's no real hope of escape.
And the threat isn't abstract anymore. It's audible, terrifying. The snorting of the enemy's horses is heard from Dan. At the neighing of their stallions, the whole land trembles. They have come to devour the land and everything in it, the city and all who live there. You can almost hear it approaching.
It's the concrete arrival of the judgment Jeremiah warned about. The sound, the trembling ground, it symbolizes the approaching all-consuming destruction. The enemy isn't just passing through, they're coming to devour.
And even nature itself seems turned against them, or maybe God is using it. See, I will send venomous snakes among you, vipers that cannot be charmed, and they will bite you, declares the Lord.
Another image of inescapable doom, right? Snakes, vipers, and crucially ones that cannot be charmed, meaning human skill, human attempts to control or neutralize the threat are useless. The judgment is unavoidable. It's coming, and it will bite.
So the chapter then concludes with this profound sense of sorrow. It feels like maybe the prophet's voice, but it echoes the people's state too. Oh, my comforter in sorrow, my heart is faint within me.
Yeah, the tone shifts dramatically here into lament. Deep anguish. We hear the cry of my people from a land far away, which really suggests exile is either happening or feels absolutely imminent. And amidst that suffering, this desperate question bubbles up. Is the Lord not in Zion? Is her king no longer there? Zion, the Temple Mount, the symbol of God's presence, has he left?
It's a question born right out of pain and confusion, isn't it? If God is supposed to be here, why is this happening? And the divine response just circles right back to the root cause. Why have they provoked me to anger with their images, with their worthless foreign idols?
The link is made absolutely clear. They're suffering, they're questioning. It's the direct outcome of their choices, their persistent idolatry. The cycle is provocation, then judgment, then suffering and questions. But the underlying problem, worshiping worthless things, hasn't been addressed.
Which leads to that incredibly poignant line, probably one of the most famous from the chapter. The harvest is past, the summer has ended, and we are not saved.
Such a powerful image of missed opportunity, isn't it? The time for gathering, the season for action, for repentance that might have changed things. It's over. The harvest season is done. The chance has passed them by. They're left undone, not because salvation wasn't possible, but because they didn't act when the time was right.
That feeling of looking back and realizing the moment's gone, it's heartbreaking.
It truly is. And the chapter's final lines really amplify that anguish, bringing it back to this theme of healing, or the lack of it. Since my people are crushed, I am crushed. I mourn, and horror grips me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then is there no healing for the wound of my people?
Right, and Gilead was known for its healing balm, its medicine, so the question isn't really about whether healing exists somewhere.
No, exactly. It's not about the availability of the cure. The balm, the physician, they represent the potential for restoration, God's ability to heal. The agonizing question is, why isn't it working for this wound? Why, despite the possibility of healing, is there no healing for the people? And it points back to everything we've talked about, the sheer depth of the wound from their sin, the false cures peddled by leaders, their own refusal to truly return and accept the real remedy.
It leaves you hanging with that really tough question, doesn't it? Why healing sometimes seems impossible even when help seems available.
It does.
Wow. Okay, we've definitely walked through some challenging territory here in Jeremiah 8. From, bones in the sun and people preferring death to those false cries of peace and snakes you can't charm away. It's a raw look at what happens when a people, a society, just consistently turns from truth and hangs on to deceit, ignoring both instinct and instruction.
It really forces you to think about what constitutes true wisdom, doesn't it? And the danger of leaders who just offer easy answers, superficial comfort, and the heavy cost, the real cost of ignoring those fundamental requirements for well-being. And seeing that shift from God's judgment to the prophets and the people's deep sorrow, it underlines the tragedy of it all. It's a self-inflicted separation.
Yeah, it's definitely a chapter that doesn't offer easy answers. It leaves you with these powerful, kind of unsettling images and questions still lingering.
Indeed. And maybe just to wrap up our deep dive here, if we connect this ancient text to, well, to our experiences. Perhaps the final thought for you to mull over from Jeremiah 8 is this. Think about the wounds you see maybe in your own life, in your community, or just out in the world, wounds that seem resistant to healing. Is it possible, like Jeremiah suggests, that the core issue isn't always a lack of a balm or a physician, not a lack of potential solutions or help? Could it be something deeper about the wound itself, maybe connected to a refusal to let go of deception, a clinging to what isn't true, or maybe an unwillingness to really face the root cause and accept the necessary, even if difficult, cure? Something to think about.